Welcome to Web Design Tutorials for HTML. This is lesson number 13, and in this lesson we're going to talk about meta tags. And in this case of this tutorial, we're going to focus on the HTML attribute for descriptions. And meta tags can have more than one type of HTML attribute, and we'll get into that in another tutorial. I'll show you another example of an HTML attribute that meta tags would use. But in this case, I'm going to let you know one thing before I get started. Meta tags help you to display information that's on the back end of your website. It's not going to show it in the web browser. It's going to display information on the back end that the search engines can read through and gather information to determine what's important on your website, and then in the end of that, figure out what to rank you for based on that information. So it's very important that you write really well written HTML attributes for the meta tags that store information on the back end. So hopefully you understand what I'm saying. But let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that I want you to do is to open up the previous document from the previous tutorial. And if you have that open, let's go ahead and click right after the closing title tag and create some space. And once we do that, let's go ahead and write our first meta tag. So we'll write an angle bracket, then the word meta, then a spacebar key. And now we're going to write our HTML attribute. And if you remember from previous tutorials, HTML attributes come in name value pairs. So I'm going to write the word name. Yes, the word name. I know they come in name value pairs and it's ironic, but it actually is called name in this case. And then we're going to put equals to, and for our value, we're going to write description. And then we're going to put that in quotes because you remember that name value pairs, for the value, it has to be in quotes. And we're going to hit the spacebar key again, and we're going to write a second HTML attribute. Yes, the meta tags are a little different. They have two HTML attributes. In this case, I'm going to write content for the name, and then the value is going to equal whatever our description is. So I'm going to write web design tutorials for beginners. Well, I'll write something general actually. Web design tutorials for HTML for those who are new to the HTML language. We provide video training to get you started right away, period. And then I'm going to write a quote again, because remember, name and value pairs, for the value it has to be in quotes. So now that we've got both parts written for our HTML attributes, let's go ahead and write our ending angle bracket. And you'll notice that I didn't use a closing tag for this, and I didn't put a / before it as well. And for meta tags, you do not have to close them. It's a unique type of tag where you don't need to do that. So even if you're using the stricter version of HTML, I would not put a / before the ending angle bracket there, because it is not part of the HTML language. So keep it like you see it on my screen here, and everything should be great. So let's go ahead and hit Control S, and I'm not going to actually preview this in my web browser because you're not going to see anything, because it's all on the back end and none of this information is displayed in the web page. What I will do is I'll go to the search engines to show you what this information would look like if you were to have your website on the internet and you already submitted it to the search engines. In this case, again, I'm looking at Newegg computer parts, and by the way, I'm in no way affiliated with Newegg. I just happen to buy a lot of different parts from them, so that's one of the reasons I've used them in this example. But if you look on the web page here, you'll see that it says providing excellent product selection and resources of computer parts and so on and so on. And that's the description that we just wrote in our notepad that you would see in the search engine. So make sure that that description matches the title. And if we go back to notepad and we look at the description, you'll see that I wrote web design tutorials for HTML for those who are new to the HTML language, and so on and so on. And you'll see that that's relevant to the title that I gave the web page, which in this case is web design tutorials for HTML. And one other thing I want to mention is make sure that you have a separate title for every web page. In this case, we only have one pet web page that we're working on right now, and we haven't worked on additional web pages. But for every page in your website, make sure that they each have a separate title. And I would even make sure they each have a separate description. Now, when we get into keywords, you might want to keep that consistent. It just depends on what your strategy is. But anyway, I hope that this tutorial was helpful, and if it was, let me know. If it wasn't, send me a question on YouTube and I'll do my best to help you out. But other than that, don't forget to embed, comment, share, subscribe, and I hope that you stay tuned for future tutorials. Have a great day.